I am late tonight. Got that sun shining in my window. I may have to move. Let's see. Check out Dubby. He wants to play. Let's see. Let me turn around maybe. Oh, that's not too bad. Okay. All right. Maybe a little bit better. All right, my little dumplings. Let's see. We had a big day today. You guys did so awesome. I'm so proud of you. And one more day and map testing is over. Whoop, whoop. Super excited about that. Okay, so let's see where we're at here. We found out that Toby and Toklo's mom has now been captured and is in the bear bowl with Lusa. Lusa's trying to make friends with her, and she's learning that Oka had lost her cub, Toby, and she's thinking maybe Toklo's still alive. Then we had, that's Lusa. Then we had Kalik, who had ended with a bunch of walruses trying to attack her. And then tonight, we're getting ready to read about Toklo. So, chapter 18, Toklo. By the way, I'm just going to go to the table of contents. I'm curious how many chapters we have. No table of contents? What? Okay. Well, there's one. Oh, no, that's the next seekers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 chapters after this, which means 11 more days, unless we read on Friday while we're relaxing. All right, so here we go. Chapter 18, Toklo. A long, sharp claw was prodding Toklo awake. He blinked and rubbed his eyes. At first, he thought it must be his mother waking him, but then he remembered she'd left him by the river. He looked up, and a bolt of terror shot through him. It was the full-grown bear from the day before, the one whose prey he'd stolen. He had a deep scar across his muzzle and an unfriendly look in his eyes. "What are you doing here, cub?" the bear growled. I'm Toklo stammered. "Where did you come from?" The bear nodded his head toward the woods where the pile of prey had been buried. "Did you go through there?" "No," Toklo lied. I came down off that mountain over there. I haven't gone into those woods." "Well, you better not," the bear snarled. "This is my territory." He reared up onto his hind legs. "See the marks on this tree?" He indicated a set of deep scratches in the bark. "That means this place is mine." "Fine," Toklo said. "I didn't know. I won't go in." "Go back to where you came from," the bear growled, dropping to all fours again. "There is nothing for you or any other bear here." Snarling, he lumbered off into the trees, and Toklo backed away into the meadow, watching the grizzly until he couldn't see him anymore. The sun rose higher in the sky, heating the earth beneath his paws. He could tell that the season of fish leap was truly beginning. Toklo kept journeying up the mountain, following the line of melting snow, digging up flower bulbs to eat all along the way. Their taste didn't compare to squirrels or hare, but it helped his legs stay fast and strong, which they needed to be in case he encountered other hungry bears with strong feelings about sharing their prey with cubs. He could smell the scent of prey in the air around him, small animals roused like him by the new growing grasses and flowers. Toward the end of the day, he found a burrow that smelled promising. He paused at the entrance and listened. Not far inside, he could hear muffled shuffling sounds, and the scent of juicy prey made his stomach growl. There was a rabbit inside. Panting with eagerness, he sank his claws in the earth and scrabbled down into the hole. But the rabbit fled out of reach, its feet drumming on the earth. Toklo's stomach rumbled loud as thunder. as he drifted off to sleep that night, and he dreamed of sinking his teeth into rabbit flesh. Poor Toklo. 3 sunrises later, Toklo had made his way near the peak of the mountain. He stayed closer to the open meadows above the tree line to avoid the thick forest in the valley, which all seemed to be claimed by grizzlies already. He had his nose to the ground, sniffing for fresh water, when another rabbit leaped out of the bushes almost directly in front of him. Toklo raced after the rabbit as it fled up a small ridge. His paws pounced on the ground, and the wind swept through his fur, making it ripple like grass. As he reached the crest, the rabbit vanished into a hole, and Toklo skidded to a stop. He was at the edge of a path like a huge claw scratched down the side of the mountain. On either side were trees and rocks covered in snow, but the scratch itself was bristling with bright green shoots, standing out sharply against the bare trees on either side. At the bottom was a heap of snow-covered boulders and snapped tree trunks. As if a bear had kicked them off the top of the mountain and sent them crashing down the steep slope. Hey, Noah, you're back. Hi, Haley. Yay, glad you guys are here. You haven't missed much. So Toklo just woke up with somebody sticking their paw in his side, and guess who it was? It was that big angry bear that tried to have him for lunch the other day, and he warned him that he better stay out of his territory. Toklo realized that this must be one of the mountain slides his mother had told him about. He looked around nervously, wondering if any other parts of the mountains were about to fall off. Listen to the birds, Oka had said. They will warn you. If you prick up your ears and hear no birds, run away as fast as you can. Why do you think if you hear no birds, you should run away as fast as you can? Toklo twitched his ears. Birds were chattering all around him, singing and whistling at one another. That must mean there was no danger from the mountain here. He sighed with relief. The claw scratch was alive with smells of wildflowers, and he scrambled onto it, rooting around for food. Toklo patted up the scratch, nosing through the mountain grasses and digging up roots. About halfway up, he came around the side of a gray boulder twice his height and nearly crashed into a full-grown grizzly. The birds will try they don't sing when frozen credit card. No? Frozen credit card. Don't really know what that means, Noah. And Haley, you left me with a cliffhanger. They don't sing when. I don't know. Okay. Toklo patted up the scratch, nosing through the mountain grasses and digging up roots. About halfway up, he came around the side of a gray boulder twice his height and nearly crashed into a full-grown grizzly. Hey! The bear roared, standing on its hind legs. Get out! Get out! He dropped to all fours and leaped at Toklo. Toklo jumped back with a startled yelp. I'm not bothering you, he protested. There are enough bulbs and roots here for lots of bears. Ah, Haley, danger is near. Totally agree with you. Birds do not want to hang around if something's going to come up and grab them. Is that what you think? The bear snarled. That just shows what an ignorant cub you are. Get out of here before I rip your fur. Why can't I stay? Toklo whined. He was sick of being driven away. How could every paw step on this mountain be part of some other bear's territory? The uplands are not for cubs, the adult bear said bossily. Go back down to the valley. Only the strongest bears can hunt up here. He lunged with his claws outstretched, swiping at Toklo's side. Toklo felt a sting of pain as the claws grazed him, and with a howl, he turned and ran back down the mountain. He could feel the other bear's eyes on him as he stumbled over the rutted earth, his angry gaze pricking the back of Toklo's ears. Noah, you think he's going to die? But he hasn't even met Lusa and Kalik. Hey, Madison. Remember whenever Toklo thought he was so tough and he was tired of his mom sheltering him and he could go out there and fight and find food? I think he's feeling a little differently now. Do you agree? Toklo tumbled to a stop at the bottom of the scratch and leaned against a rock, panting. It wasn't fair. His mother should be here to fight for him, to make sure he got enough food. He could still hear the other bear roaring, so he forced himself to keep going on down the mountain and into the trees, even though his belly felt pinched and empty. After a while, he heard the sound of fire beasts ahead of him, so he knew there must be a black path close by, like the one in the valley where he'd lived with Oka and Toby. This valley had many of the same smells, flat faces burning and metal, rot food, but the shape of the mountains around it was different, and there was a river flowing through it that had split off from the one he'd been following earlier. Following the sounds of the fire beasts, he clambered down through dark trees until he reached the edge of the black path. Something was lying on the grass that smelled like rot food, but it wasn't an animal. As far as Toklo could tell, it looked like moldy bits of lots of different things, wrapped in a thin black skin with no fur. I wonder what that could be. Okay, let me reread this because I don't really know what this is. It smelled like rot food, but it wasn't an animal, as far as Toklo could tell. It looked like moldy bits of lots of different... Oh, I know what it is. It is moldy bits of lots of different things wrapped in a thin black skin with no fur. The skin ripped easily when he sliced his claws into it, and what was inside came spilling out, along with many confusing scents. Toklo stepped back, wrinkling his nose, trying to sort out the different smells. It definitely seemed like there was something in there he could eat. So you and Madison had softball practice. I can't wait to come watch you play. So what do you think Toklo has discovered here? In a black skin, slices open easily. He found a few bones with chewed meat still sticking to them, and he gnawed all the rest of the meat off and crunched the bones with his teeth. Then he found a hollowed out shape with something sweet inside, and he stuck his tongue in to lick it all up. This wasn't so bad. While he was stretching his tongue to get the last trace of sweet, sticky stuff, a blast of noise came from a fire beast racing past, and Toklo jumped. His muzzle scraped against a sharp metal edge, and he felt his skin tear. Oh, no. The new stabbing pain in his mouth joined the throbbing in his side where the bear had clawed him. Toklo backed away from the rot food and padded back into the forest, climbing up the slope through the trees. Blood was dripping from his muzzle, warm and salty, and as soon as he found a snowbank, he stuck his nose in it. Oh! When his nose felt numb, he pulled it out and dug himself a shallow hole in the ground. He curled up and pressed his nose into the earth, breathing in the warm and the clean, growing scents of the dirt until sleep finally overtook him. Bear poop? Noah, he's eating it. It's not bear poop. Oh, nope, that sun's still there. Okay. I think it's probably a trash bag. Okay, think about it. It has bones with meat mostly chewed off. It had a tub of something sweet, a container with something sweet in it. That's what I think it is. But I'm worried about Toklo. He just got hit by a car, I think. Toklo backed away. Oh, whoops. The next day, the fire beasts were quieter on the black path, and Toklo was able to hear the splash of the river in the woods behind him. He followed the noise until he reached the bank and carefully stepped into the water. The river was smaller, shallower. Shallower means not very deep. Hey, Christian, you just keep showing up late every night, buddy. And faster than the one where he tried fishing for salmon with his mother. The banks were made of soft earth that crumbled instead of pebbles that sloped straight into the water. Toklo stood with his back to the current, watching the reflections dance and sparkle on the surface. Question, are the reflections really dancing on the river? Personification. He tried to listen for the bear spirits, but all he could hear was the rushing and splashing around his paws. Okay, so Christian and Madison, we are talking about Toklo. Toklo is trying to get around the mountain, and he keeps coming up against these grizzly bears that are kicking him out of their territory. All at once, something silver slithered between his paws. Toklo was so surprised, he reacted instinctively and leaped for it. He landed on his belly in the water, soaking his fur, and the fish twisted away just out of reach, vanishing downriver. But I was close, Toklo thought. He scrambled onto his feet and waited for another one to come by. Before long, he spotted the flash of movement again and dove at it. Once again, he ended up flat on his belly with a nose full of river water. He stood up, shaking his head. Every time he dove, water splashed in his eyes, so he couldn't see anything, but he couldn't think of another way to do it. Have you guys been to a river ever? Just curious if you have any schema for that. Toklo tried to catch fish for the rest of the day. There was no shortage of fish. Almost every time he stood up, another one darted between his paws. But that just made it even more frustrating when he couldn't catch any. Yet, right? At last, he stomped up the bank and sat on a rock, glaring at the river. He could see the dark shapes of fish flitting past, casting shadows on the riverbed. They seemed happy and unafraid, as if they knew they had nothing to fear from him. Hey, this reminds me of, Missouri River. Not the Ohio in Missouri, right? This reminds me of when I kept practicing basketball forever, and I never got any better because I needed someone to show me the right way to do it. I'm hoping that maybe somebody will come along and teach Toklo maybe how to catch these fish. Thanks a lot, river spirits, Toklo muttered. Fat lot of good you are. Can't you do anything useful like send a fish to my paws? Stupid bunch of weasel brains. You're as useless as a black bear. Long, sleeping, squirrel-faced, hollow-headed salmon brains. Woo, he's getting a little testy, isn't he? The river kept burbling past, ignoring him. Toklo got up and began following it, pacing along the bank. The water seemed to be in a hurry, swirling by in a flurry of choppy waves and frothing splashes. He wondered where it was going at such a fast pace, and if all the bear spirits were going there too. His mother had said that the bear spirits floated downriver until they reached the end, a place of forgetfulness where they faded from every bear's memory. Well, if that's where Toby's trying to go, he hasn't gotten there, Toklo thought. He certainly hadn't forgotten about his brother, although he wanted to. Every time he remembered the sad scrap of fur lying in the half-built den alone, Toklo had to remind himself that he didn't want Toby here, whining and dragging his paws and feeling ill all the time. He wished Toby would hurry up and get to the end of the river so Toklo could stop thinking about him. What do you think? Christian, your throat cannot hurt. You cannot get sick. That is not allowed. Okay. Are you guys thinking, does Toklo miss Toby? It's really weird that he's saying he wished he would hurry up and get to the end of the river so he didn't have to think about him anymore. A noise ahead snapped him out of his thoughts. Toklo crept up the slope until he was hidden from the river by a thick line of bushes. He edged along to a place where he could peer through at the water below. Not 3 bear lengths from him, a brown she-bear was standing in the shallows with 2 cubs. The cubs were wrestling, splashing in the river, and dunking each other underwater. Little ones, their mother scolded gently, this is not the time for playing. Pay attention to me. The bigger, darker cub obediently sat down, but the smaller one with a patch of light blonde fur across his shoulders couldn't resist swatting one last splash of water at him. All right, which of you would be that cub that didn't follow directions the first time and had to get one more little playful thing in? Okay. Hey, the bigger cub protested. Sit, their mother ordered. They both snapped to attention, watching her. Now watch me, the mother bear said. She paced through the water until she found a spot where boulders channeled the current directly between her paws. She stood and waited, her head lowered to stare at the water, but it wasn't very long before she pounced. When she lifted her head, she held a fat, flapping salmon between her teeth. She shook it hard until it stopped flapping about. Then the mother bear brought it over to her cubs. So, was I right with my prediction that maybe somebody would show Toklo? All right, the trick is to look before you jump, she explained, dropping the fish on the pebbles beside them. Don't pounce on where you see the fish. Pounce on the spot where it's going. because by the time you land, that's where it will be. Take a moment to plan it out, because as soon as you move, the water will splash in your eyes and you'll have to rely on your paws to find it and hold it down. Toklo pricked up his ears. He hadn't thought of that. He had just leaped as soon as he saw anything move. He curled his lip. How could he know what to do anyway? Oka should have taught him. The cubs were splashing through the shallows, chasing after their mother and trying to imitate her. The smaller cub kept batting hopefully at the water with her paws. Toklo could see that she didn't have enough patience for this task yet. Like him, she would jump before thinking, sending cascades of water over herself and her brother. But the bigger cub stood calmly staring at the river. Toklo's paws prickled with tension as he waited, feeling every whisker on his body quiver. When the cub finally leaped and emerged from the water with a fish in his mouth, Toklo wanted to shout with triumph. The cub had done it. He caught a fish. Good job, Fochik, his mother praised him. That was terrific. Wow, said his little sister, circling her brother. Maybe you're not such a slippery paws after all. Thanks, Island, the cub said. Toklo watched Fochik drag the fish to the edge of the water. Christian. Okay. All right, Christian. Funny stuff, buddy. Keep it coming. Let's see. Wait. Where did I leave off? Okay. The cub nudged the salmon's body with his muzzle until it lodged on some stones just out of reach of the water. Toklo narrowed his eyes, thinking he could steal that fish. The cubs were smaller than him, so he wasn't afraid of fighting them if they tried to stop him. The mother bear was a different matter, but she was back in the stream watching the current. Toklo could slip in and out before she even noticed. It wasn't as if the bears would go hungry if he took his fish. The she-bear would just catch more for them. He needed that fish more than they did because he didn't have a mother. He snuck through the shadows of the bushes until he was less than a bear length from the riverbank. Aylin was scampering around her brother at the edge of the water, begging for a bite. Come on, Toklo heard her cry. Just a little. Let me try it. Go catch your own, her brother answered good-naturedly. He was standing over his fish, watching its tail lift when the water lapped against it. It's not that hard. Don't you think you can do it? Of course I can. I just need something to keep up my strength. That's all. One bite. Fochik turned his head to shove his sister away. At once, Toklo darted out of the bushes, plunged down the bank, and snapped up the fish in his jaws. Hey, Aylin yelped. Stop. That's ours. Mother, Fochik yowled. Toklo scrambled up the bank. He glanced back and saw Aylin chasing after him. You thieving badger face, she howled. Are you a wolverine or a bear? Come back, scavenger. Her work, scavenger, do you know what a scavenger is? Oh, goodbye, Noah, darn it. A scavenger is someone who doesn't catch their own prey. They go eat off of other people's prey. So that's kind of an insult to a bear to say that. Her words pricked at Toklo's pride, but the taste of the salmon was already flooding his mouth, so he kept running. Then he heard the crash and crackle of the mother bear charging through the bushes after him, and his heart began to pound with terror. How far would she chase him? He knew she must be faster than he was. He dodged under a low-hanging branch and slipped on a pile of leaves, wasting precious moments as he scrabbled back to his paws. He risked another look back as he burst out of the bushes and raced under some spiny trees. The mother bear was pushing her way out behind him, her mouth hanging open and her pink tongue lolling. She let out another bellow when she saw Toklo. We fish the river here. Toklo's legs were so tired he didn't think he could run anymore. If he stopped, would the mother bear take the fish back and leave him alone? Or would she attack him, ripping into his fur like the bear on the mountainside, leaving him bleeding and dying on the leaves? His breath came in ragged gasps, and all he could hear was the blood pounding in his ears. His footsteps slowed, and without looking around, he braced himself for a massive paws to slam down on his shoulders. Nothing happened. Toklo slowed even more until he staggered to a stop, the salmon still gripped in his teeth. He turned around. The mother bear was standing behind him, several bear lengths back, under a prickly tree with small, curly leaves. This is my territory, she roared. Stay away from us. Toklo didn't answer. His legs were trembling too much to carry him another step. He just stood still, waiting for the she-bear to catch up to him. But she didn't. Instead, she turned away with an angry huff and trotted back toward the river. Toklo sank onto the dry leaves, panting and dizzy. She had chased him out of her territory. That was all she wanted. He was safe, and he had food. That night, he slept with a full stomach in a den under some tree roots. For once, he did not dream of Toby dying or of Oka driving him away. He didn't even feel guilty about stealing that salmon. His sleep was dreamless and peaceful. He had a full tummy. This is Toklo, Christian. So it looks like, who's having the roughest time now, do you think? Toklo or Lusa? I mean, not Lusa. Lusa's in the bear bowl getting fed all the time and hanging out with her family. So Toklo or Kalik? Because remember, Kalik is being chased by walruses. We haven't heard about her in a while. But Toklo's learning in the wilderness, everybody has a territory, and there's not enough, doesn't seem to be enough territory to go around. Christian, I kind of agree with you. I think Lusa's Kalik's gonna escape those walruses, but poor Toklo, he's having a rough go. Why do you think the mom didn't attack him? Dunno, Haley? Haley, you always have an interesting idea. What do you mean you don't know? All right. Well, that's the end of our chapter tonight. And I know that we all have to get to bed early tonight because we are testing at 8:05 in the morning. And our brains have to be fresh and amazing because children know good results. No. Toplo? No. Christian, do you really type in no that many times, or do you just keep hitting return, or is it a mistake? Like, what is that all about? All right, my little dumplings. We'll find out tomorrow what's happening with the rest of the bears. Now, you get to sleep and rest your brain. And I'll see you tomorrow.